Welcome to ePro and Georgia First Marketplace Approvals, Approval Stages and Paths. When you have completed this lesson, you will be able to identify and describe approval stages and paths and define deadlines for approvers. Now that we have a good understanding of how approvals work in general, let's examine the different approval stages. First, we'll begin by listing each stage. Then we'll discuss each one in greater depth. Stage 1 is Department and Project Approval, which is mandatory for all requisitions. Stage 2 is the Fund Approval. Stage 3 is the Amount Approval and applies only to Georgia First Marketplace requisitions. Stage 4 is the Item Type Approval. There are 11 optional approval paths in Stage 4. Stage 5 is the Buyer Approval and applies only to Special Request requisitions. Although we'll now discuss each approval stage in more detail, you should still consult the eProcurement and Georgia First Marketplace User's Guide for Approvers to get all of the information you need. This guide is located on the Georgia First website under ePro/Georgia First Marketplace Training at http://www.usg.edu/training/ePro_Georgia First_Marketplace. Approval Stage 1 is for Department and Project Approvals and is mandatory for all requisition lines. When a requisition line is submitted for approval, the system routes it to the manager of that department. A requisition line may also be charged to a project if a project is being charged for the item. When a requisition line is submitted for approval, the system routes it to the project manager in addition to the department manager. If no project is being charged, the system sends a requisition only to the department manager. Approval Stage 2 is for Fund Approvals, an optional stage for each institution. 3 funds exist in the BOR system: agency funds, grant funds, and tech fee funds. If your institution chooses to employ the Fund Approval stage, you may have multiple fund approvers in each of the funds. Approval Stage 3 is the Amount Approval stage. In addition to being optional, this stage generally applies only to Georgia First Marketplace requisitions, although institutions may choose to include Special Request requisitions if they wish. If a requisition has a monetary amount of $10,000 or more, then Workflow routes the requisition to the individual designated as the amount approver. Your institution can adjust the threshold from the $10,000 if preferred. If this requisition is a Special Request requisition, it will bypass this approval stage. If this requisition is a Georgia First Marketplace requisition and is below the set monetary threshold, it will also bypass this stage. Approval Stage 4 involves item type-based approvals, which means that the type of item being requested determines the approval path. This approval stage has 11 potential paths, each optional for use by institutions. In Approval Stage 5, the system routes all Special Request requisitions to the person designated to give buyer approval. This stage is primarily used for Special Request requisitions since they are not built from contract-approved catalogs. The buyer approval can then ensure that the line item meets all procurement policies. If the requisition is a Georgia First Marketplace requisition, it bypasses this stage since all items are contracted. In order to make sure that all approvers work the requisitions in their work list in a timely manner, deadlines are built into the system. If a requisition is added to an approver's work list and sits unworked for 3 days, the system will automatically send an email to that approver reminding them that the requisition needs to be worked. If a requisition sits unworked for 4 days, the system will remove the requisition from the approver's work list and escalate it to the ePro admin. The ePro admin will then need to reassign the requisition to another approver. Whenever this happens, the history of the escalation and reassignment are captured in the approval history of the requisition. If an approver is going to be away from the office for an extended period of time, they can designate an alternate approver to work their requisitions. This way, requisitions will not needlessly sit in an approver's work list when they are unable to work them. Remember to consult the eProcurement and GeorgiaFIRST Marketplace User's Guide for Approvers for more information on approvals. This user's guide is located on the GeorgiaFIRST website under ePro/GeorgiaFIRST Marketplace Training. This concludes the lesson on the ePro and GeorgiaFIRST Marketplace approvals. You should now be able to identify and describe approval stages and paths and define deadlines for approvers. If you have further questions, please contact the ITS Help Desk at helpdesk@usg.edu. Thank you for attending.